She said, yes. I said, okay. And what if you guys do your surveys? By the way, your surveys, just keep them anonymous because then I know you're going to be honest with me, okay? So don't put your name on it. And if you're only going to be here today, please leave it with us. We can narrow down who did it then. But if you're going to be here both days, just hold on to it and complete the other side and then hand it to us tomorrow at the end. That would be great. So anyway, so the other piece of me being recorded was I said, okay, so it gets shut off if it's not working for me, right? Yes. Okay, well, what if I read the surveys at the end of the first day or the second day and decide I don't want this on videotape for other people to be able to get to? And she said, okay, it's up to you, it's fine. That's the only reason I agreed to this. And I think it's on record now. Okay, so kindergarten teachers. I mean, I've read some stuff, I've heard some stuff. And this, of course, gives you sort of a little cheap thing, but what is the most important thing that you need to have those kids be doing by the time that they get to you? Anybody want to share? Yes.
I would love it if they can, zip their own zippers and maybe, those kind of things, if they are able to interact with other children. I always tell my families, I can teach them their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but those social behaviors, being able to sit still for 15 minutes or so at a time, and just things like that. But then, of course, having the letter ID and things, if they have it, that's wonderful. But
right. Okay, well, that's what the research is saying. There's exactly what you just said. So basically, it's great that we are teaching kids all their letters and numbers and colors and shapes, and we're teaching them those basic writing skills, letter sounds. It's all wonderful, but that's just really kind of icing on the cake. They are needed for our current programs, but what's more important are these social and emotional readiness skills. Because if a child goes in there and they can't sit and listen, or they can't keep their hands to themselves, or they can't be respectful, they're not ready for the ABCs and all that, and then neither are their classmates. Okay, and so this is really, that's the biggie for us as preschool teachers. Even though we know they're going to go to kindergarten and they need those other things too. Yes, they do. But this is the most important piece. I keep saying that all day. Everything must be the most important, I think. But or even each piece has something really important. But this is really very important. And so as far as that goes, their basic needs have to be met as well. And part of that is at home. And so part of that is, again, communicating with those families. And if you want to send out little newsletters, you're going to get copies of our calendars and newsletters. You guys are probably get all this stuff and go, we already do this. But just in case, it's all been put together. But like in one of my newsletters, I point out how doctors say, this is how many hours of sleep your doctor says your child needs. It amazes me when kids come in and they're having a really bad day, and then the parent says, oh yeah, I'm sorry he hit Johnny, but he really didn't get enough sleep last night. Well, why didn't he get enough sleep? Now, yes, there are things that happen in the household sometimes that prevent that, but sometimes it's just, we just stayed at the park too late, and it was 10 o'clock when we got home. Not a good idea on a school night for a preschooler. So kind of educating the parents a little bit, just, little blurbs here and there in your newsletters, or when they do say, oh, he didn't get enough sleep, that little quick conversation of, oh, really, how much sleep does he usually get? Oh, wow, do you know, I heard, whatever. Just make it nice, but make sure they know. Sometimes we have to educate the parents too. So they need adequate sleep. They need food. They need nutritious food. I have kids who come in and they haven't had anything at all for breakfast. I am a big stickler on breakfast. So that goes in our newsletter too. They need to eat something healthy. I mean, obviously you want them to have just something in their stomach if they're not going to get anything else, but something healthy. And we'll talk about that with nutrition, sometimes in Anytime Foods. And we kind of put that in the kids' lab a little bit if they're not getting it at home already from their parents, to help them to encourage some good choices. And it's amazing because it can work. So making sure they have adequate sleep, making sure that they're getting food and water. I tell the preschoolers, if you drink lots of water, it helps your brain. So that you've got all the water you need, and then it makes everything work right, and you can think and you can learn better. So make sure you drink something before you come to school. So those were basics, but in part of those basic needs being met, also their safety. We don't always know what's happening at home. We don't know about the neighborhood. I don't know where everybody, what their neighborhoods are looking like, especially if you're out of town. But I know that sometimes children are lucky if they get something to eat. Sometimes kids coming to our programs, the most important thing is not going to be about learning letters. It's going to be whether or not it's safe for them to walk out their front door that night, or whether or not their brother got home safely because of whatever. So those basic needs have to be met. And so sometimes we have to communicate and find out what's going on in a child's life, especially if we're seeing behaviors that aren't making sense or that just aren't, are right. So that can be a big part of it. And then we can't, obviously, unless we're going to call in Child Protective Services because we're seeing something extreme, other than trying to help educate the parents in a very nice way, we can't really change what's happening at home so much. But we can provide them an environment at school, at least when they get there, to where their needs are being met and they're safe, and so that they can learn when they get there. And then we can just hope and look for resources to try and help them for when they're at home too. So a young child who can listen, pay attention, remember directions, and control their behavior will benefit more from preschool and be better prepared for kindergarten. I didn't put that in quotations, but it's actually from your early learning guidelines that you've got. So this is key. Our job, besides giving them a safe environment in the classroom where they feel like they're ready to learn, we need to give them lots of chances for practice. We need to give them chances to fail so that they can learn how to do it the right time or the right way, because they're not all getting that at home. Some kids are coming to us and maybe they've just been with grandma since they were born, and we're the first people that they're going to be with, outside of their family, and they haven't been with other little kids, so they're not going to have those skills. Or maybe they've been in an environment where there were so many kids and there wasn't a controlled environment, and so they've learned that it's okay to push the other kids down. It's okay to take what they want whenever they want. So again, knowing your child, knowing where they're coming from as best as you can, so that you can help them and give the experiences that they need. But we get to practice this stuff all day long in school. It doesn't matter what center they're in, what center they're playing in. It doesn't matter if we go outside to play, they're in the cafeteria for snack. All day long, they're getting chances to work on those social emotional skills. So we just have to make sure that we're guiding them. And just like when we talk about, when we set up a learning environment for them, and let's say we've got a great toy that they can play with, and helping them explore it on their own, coming up with their own thoughts. We talked about that in my classroom a little bit upstairs. Same thing with this, be asking them questions about, well, what do you think went wrong? What do you think could have happened if we did this, or what could we have done differently? And have them thinking about it, and definitely always that question of, well, would you like someone to do that to you? Really put that, in their mind. So we guide them and we help them when we do have trouble. So class mission. So I touched on this in my classroom upstairs a little bit. All of the stewardship schools this year, from preschool all the way through 8th grade, we were told to do something that at first I was like, what? And then I was really glad we did it. So we all had to do a class mission statement. And I thought, with preschoolers? Okay. Because they're supposed to be involved in the process, and I forgot. And, of course, preschoolers are so smart. But so anyway, we were given this mission, basically, to create a class mission, however it works for us. The kids had to be involved. And it was kind of like setting goals for the year and what we wanted our classroom to look like. And you could take a photo, or you could draw a big poster with pictures that the kids helped draw depending on their age, whatever. So each of us did this and then posted it in our classrooms. We also have a special binder that we keep. My classroom is a little small, I apologize, but we took a picture of the whole class so they knew this was for all of them. We hang this right above my teacher's chair so they can kind of see it. It's a visual, a reminder. And we just asked them, I think, was it the first day of school even that we did that? Or maybe, I don't know, first week of school probably.
First one.
Yeah, okay, so by the end of the first month. So anyway, so I just asked the kids, why are we here? Just like we asked this morning, what are we doing here? And of course, most of them said, well, we're getting ready for kindergarten. And they do. Some of them were just quiet, but so getting ready for kindergarten. So I wrote that down on my whiteboard. And then I said, well, how can we get ready for kindergarten? So it's so different than saying, here are our class rules. Here's what we're going to do. They were a part of this. And when they have ownership, it changes everything. I'm so glad we did this. It worked for my class, the morning class in particular. So I said, well, how can we get ready for kindergarten? And they would throw out a bunch of stuff and I'd write it down. And then I'd kind of summarize and they'd say, so do you mean if you're listening to the teacher and you're not talking when the teacher's talking and you're doing what the teacher asks, do you mean that means like to be good listeners? And they're like, yes. So, just to keep it simple. So I helped them after they told me their ideas. And we came up with, to be good listeners, they wanted to play and learn at the same time in order to get ready for kindergarten. Because some kids were saying, I want to play. That's why I'm here. I want to play. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. And then the other ones, they've got those high achievers. We're like, but I want to learn to write my letters. And we did have one who said that. So you've got these kids on different spectrums, and Katie will be addressing that a little bit. So we put them together. We're going to play and learn at the same time to get ready for kindergarten. We're going to be good listeners to get ready for kindergarten. And then I said, how do you want people to treat you? What do you want our classroom to look like? How do you want people to be in here? And of course, it was, I don't want anybody to hit me. Now think about it. This is when school just started. And they had their little concerns coming in. Are the kids going to be nice? Maybe their friend across the street hits them, right? I mean, they've had experiences before they walk in the door. So they're saying, I don't want anybody to hit me. I want people to share with me. I want someone to play with, right? So that was summarized as share and be kind to other people. Made it very simple. I typed it up for them and said, look what I did. I typed up what you guys said, and we're going to hang it up. And then for a while, every morning, when we started out in the morning, one of the things I did that morning was, okay, let's talk about our class mission. Why are we here? And they could recite it eventually. And even when we didn't talk about it for a month because their behavior was great and everybody was doing what they're supposed to do, they could still remember it later when we were having problems. And I went, oh no. You know what? I feel like something's wrong. I feel like I don't think we're getting towards our mission today. What's going on? Let's talk about our mission again. And I know it sounds goofy, but it actually worked. So if you want to set a class mission with your kids, have it somewhere really visual for them. They can look at it when you're teaching them whatever. It really helped with class management. Unless I just had a really fantastic group, which can be the case sometimes. But that was something that I felt was helpful. As far as classroom management, in our classrooms, we do Circle of Grace. Raise your hand if you guys do Circle of Grace. Okay, so most everybody. So Circle of Grace is a program through the Catholic schools. And if you aren't doing it, ask your administrator about it. It's really simple, and it's kind of nice. It just teaches kids about their boundaries, their space, and how the Holy Spirit is with them. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, that you're being guided by God, that this is something that makes you uncomfortable. And it kind of gives you ideas on how to help them when they're feeling like someone's in their circle of grace, something's making them uncomfortable. It's really helpful. It's also helpful when you have a child who's not staying in their own circle of grace, and you can say, well, are we in our circle of grace right now? So it is helpful. If you're not using it, that's something good to look into. Ask your principal if you can do it. Years ago, when I first started teaching, I think I was about 2 years in, and I had said the first year, to my principal, I said, Dr. Willoughby, I'm having problems with behaviors. I feel like I'm doing great here, and here, but I've got some kids who I just feel like I'm not getting to them and I'm not able to manage them, and it's really disruptive and I really need help. And we kind of thought about some different things. And the next year, same thing, my co-teacher and I went to her again and said, I really need something. I think I need a program or a seminar or something just for that because I'm struggling. This is somewhere I need help. And so if any of you, especially when starting out, are feeling that way about any of the topics, make sure you go to your principal and say, I need help with this. You guys all, I think, have my email because if you're looking for something, I might be able to help find something for you. I definitely don't know everything, but I can sure try and find something for you. But the point is, Dr. Willoughby sent my co-teacher and I to Boys Town, and it was not cheap. And it was all day for like 2 days, and I'm not a sitter, so sorry that you guys are all sitters. But it was fantastic. I would say it was probably the best, like $240 that the school ever spent. on me. I don't know. But it was really good. It was great. And so when you leave there, when you leave that training, they send you with all of these little flyers and things you can hang up and all about life skills. And they know what they're doing because they deal with some of the toughest kids anywhere, right? They know what they're doing. So what I learned from Boys Town, it would take forever to go into it, I guess. I could talk to people about later if they want information on it. I even have like the sheets that talk about the skills. When you get copies of our newsletters, on the front of them, on some months I'll put like skill of the month, and it tells the parents, here's how you can practice this skill at home. So I listed some of them. So, but I would love to share more information on that later if anybody's interested. Or again, if you want to go to a principal and say, hey, I could really use some help with this. I've heard that Boys Town training is awesome. Could I please go? Realize this when you go in, though, that they have kids, the gamut of ages, and some of the time they're going to be talking about older kids. And I'm just like, kindergarten teachers here today are probably going, oh, I know this, and you're having to listen to some of my stuff about preschool. But just realize, I think one of the most important things that you can do as a teacher probably is to be able to take something from one level and to be able to scale it down for the needs of your kids. So you can go to that and still be able to bring lots of useful stuff home. So Love and Logic is something that our new principal, Mr. Davis, brought with him. He really likes Love and Logic a lot. And again, I'm not an always never person, right? And so I am excited because that means I get to pull something else. And I would not give up Boys Town training. I wouldn't give up what I learned from there because there were some great things. Love and Logic has some great pieces to it as well. And so Love and Logic is more about giving kids choices because there are some kids who may not have any control in their lives and they're feeling out of control and they need some choices. That's a piece of it. And you can give them choices that make sense for you. So let's say, the one that always comes to mind is like vegetables. So let's pretend you're not teachers and your parents at home right now. And so a good choice would be something like, your child is not eating vegetables, right? And won't eat them. They have a fit about it, and it's just become kind of a bad thing for you. And so you bring them into it and give them a choice. Now, of course, you have peas and you have carrots in the freezer, and they're both very good options. They're both healthy choices, and the child's not going to want either of them, right? But you get them out anyway and say, hey, I wanted to let you help with dinner tonight. I wanted to let you help choose. Would you rather have carrots or peas tonight? Now, if they don't like vegetables and they don't want them, then they might say, neither. Okay. And then you get to say something like this. Okay, that's all right, I'll choose, and next time I'll let you try again. And when they go, no, I want carrots. Oh, you know what, Hannah, I'll let you choose tomorrow because I'm going to go ahead and take this turn since you said you didn't want them. And you just be honest with them. They understand. They're not going to like it. And then the next day, guess what happens when you say, hey, I wanted you to help choose. Would you like okra? Or would you like? Yeah, that's actually
whatever other would
that's my least favorite vegetable. That's why I threw it in there. So would you? I'm sure someone knows how to cook okra the way I would try it again. I promise, but I haven't done it yet. So okra, or would you rather have whatever?
Celery.
Okay, celery, corn. Okay, and this time they may hesitate, but they're not going to hesitate long because they know you're going to pick. And even though they don't want the celery, they sure probably don't want the okra. And so they're going to be a little faster because they know you mean business and they're going to pick. And then when you sit down to eat, you're going to, okay, you need to take a bite, whatever you want to do. But the point is you're giving them choices. You're letting them have a little bit of control without controlling you, without controlling the entire situation. It's something that works for you. Okay, so bedtime. Do you want to go to bed in 5 minutes or no? I was thinking it's bedtime right now, but if you'd like to go to bed in 5 minutes, we could do that instead tonight because you've had such a great day. They had a choice. Either one works for you. It's not going to break you. Anyway, so that's my point. And I'm not doing a good job of bringing it into the preschool setting, but there are so many ways to do it. So it's about giving them a little bit of control in their life as long as it still works, as long as they know that you are ultimately in charge. You do enough of that with a child, then eventually it's that whole putting money in the bank thing again, making deposits like we talked about in the beginning. If you let them do that enough, then when you have to make a choice, you can't. Because when you say, oh, we're going to do this, and they go, oh, I didn't want to do that. and you just say, well, do you remember when I let you choose about this and this? You know how I let you choose lots of times? Well, this time it's actually my turn to choose. So we need to do that. And because they've had chances and you already have deposits in there, it works, mostly, usually. So anyway, so that's kind of, I guess, from my take on Love and Logic, that's one big piece of it. So they have some very useful ideas. Earning jobs, that one is specific to my classroom. It is something that I did this year that I found so effective, but again, I had a fantastic group. So I don't know how it'll go next year, but what I did, we have jobs in our classroom. Does everybody do like job boards, helpers, something like that? Okay, so the kids love to have jobs. In the very beginning of the year, next year how I'm gonna do it, is I'm gonna make sure everybody takes turns having jobs, because I only have like 9 jobs in my class and 20 kids. So they know if their name wasn't on the top of the stack, then they get a job next time or the time after. And we repeat that with each other so that they understand it, so they're not all upset. You might still have one that gets upset. But anyway, so then everybody's running through and getting their jobs. But when I start to find that I'm having a couple students who are really misbehaving, rather than doing the whole sticker chart thing, and the whole, you're gonna earn something, like a sticker or a piece of candy and all that, that's great if you wanna use that. I've kind of leaned away from that myself, because I've read some books on, sometimes kids need to do things because it's the right thing to do, and not always to earn something. You want positive reinforcement. Do you have to give them something though? Maybe not. That positive reinforcement and that, hey, you should be so proud of yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, that should be enough. But it's not always. So with the earning jobs piece, what I did is a couple of my boys were really struggling. They were some of my older students who had repeated. Their parents wanted them to. And they were kind of getting a little bored, and they were kind of acting out and whatever. And so when it came to jobs, one day I said, I feel like we've been running out of time for picking jobs, and we've been running out of time for like the song helper didn't get to pick a song today because we had some misbehaviors in the classroom. We ran out of time. The natural consequence was we didn't get time to do all the jobs, right? And that was a bummer because some of the kids were doing a really great job. And I thought, well, that's not fair to them. So what we did is first we tried this. This is horrible. Don't do it. Okay, I was desperate. So first I got my whiteboard. And I said, I think every time, that someone's acting out, being disruptive on the rug when we're trying to learn, I'm just gonna make a little mark right here so I remember. And then when we get to this is very negative, don't do it. When we get to 5 marks, then that's gonna tell me that we probably won't have time to do jobs tomorrow. Because if the behavior is the same tomorrow as it was today, we won't have time to do the jobs anyway. So we're not gonna do this. So it was really kind of a negative. But I will tell you it was very effective. Very effective. Because as soon as we got to 3 marks, the ones who were always good were like, poor kids. the ones who were pretty good, but they were doing a great job. The ones who were acting out a lot were doing much better. So we had a couple days where we didn't get to do it, but it really improved the behavior in the classroom. But I just felt like it was too negative. So then I switched it because I felt like, well, that's not fair, because what about the kids who are sitting there like this? Mrs. Howard, I really want a job tomorrow. That's not fair to them. So here's what I did instead, is I got out this really cute pink notebook, little spiral one, and I keep it on my whiteboard as a reminder. I keep it there, it's visual. And I tell the kids, this little book is special. And when I see you guys do something amazing, like you shared really nice with a friend, or you were all sitting so quiet for that whole lesson, wow, I'm gonna write myself a note because I don't wanna forget, because sometimes I forget. So I'm gonna write myself a note. So now we know that the little book is not just negative, okay? So when the kids see me writing, they don't necessarily think that I'm writing something negative about Johnny who just shouted out, right? They don't know for sure what I'm doing. I'm keeping them guessing, okay? Because I don't want my book to be negative, but I need something to keep track for myself. So I've got a little book. So I jot down, some positive things, and I kind of tell them when I'm doing it. And then later I might write down something negative. And I've told the kids that. I said, I also might need help remembering when somebody kept on shouting out. And, I just feel like, when your parents get jobs, when they're older, they earn them. They earn them by making good choices. They earn them and keep them by making good choices and following the rules, by being kind to others, by taking turns when they're talking, all of those things, right? So you talk to them about that, and then just say, so I was thinking we have a problem with running out of time and jobs. How about if we earn jobs? Okay, and they like the idea, especially the ones who are being really good listeners. They liked it. Okay, so my notebook then became positives and negatives, and I didn't know what I was writing usually, except for the really smart ones knew what I was doing. So then the next day, when it was time to pick jobs, I made a really big deal out of the fact that this person was top of the stack. So Gracie's on the top of the stack. Grace, you earned a job yesterday. You did a fantastic job. You didn't shout out on the rug, yada, yada. And so I'd say, what job would you like? And Gracie picked her job. And then I got to the next one, and I didn't show the kids who they were. I didn't let them know who I had because, you don't want to make them feel real bad. And so then I'd be like, okay, all right, I'm going to save that one. And I held it between my fingers so that later I could talk to the child. Or, privately, I could talk to the child and say, hey, you were up for a job today? I just wanted to let you know the reason. Do you know why you didn't get a job? They know, and they'll tell you, Sometimes after I write something during playtime, I'll go, hey, Johnny, I just want to let you know, I had to write a little note for myself because you were shouting out during class today. But you know what? I only had to write it once. This is your warning, okay? So I hope that you can be a really good listener the rest of the day. All right. So they had a warning privately. They know what's going on. They know they may not get a job the next day. I hope I'm making sense. So if it turns out that Johnny broke the rules a few times, or he hit a friend once, that's an automatic, whatever, then he didn't earn a job. And so it seems very negative. But at the same time, it has such a positive to it. The positive is when we make good choices in life, we do earn things, and it may not be a piece of candy. It may be something bigger, like when your parents earn jobs, and you're doing something important when you do a job in the classroom. So they're earning them. So use it if you want, don't use it if you don't want to. If you feel like it's too negative, but you can put a very positive spin on that. And I found it extremely effective. For those couple of boys loved having jobs, and it really helped a lot. Sometimes we can't do everything all, sweetsy and whatever. Sometimes there has to be a natural consequence. So, okay, let's see.
Or were you done with that? I'm sorry.
I don't know what it said. Oh, get to know your students. Back to building relationships like we talked about before. If you have students that you feel like you're not really connected with, get connected. Even if they're your most difficult child, even if you love their smile, even if you love when you hear them giggle, I don't care what it is, connect with them. Let them know what you love about them. Find a way to connect. Because as soon as you become connected with them and they want to please you, your behavioral problems in the classrooms diminish greatly. So making those connections, then you don't need all those charts. And I'm not even saying that's like in a perfect world kind of thing. I mean, it really is effective. You're still going to have some situations, but connecting with the children. And then this here, this website that I put on the bottom, kidsactivitiesblog.com for family conversation starters. This is something we did this year because one of my kids, who I needed to connect with, said to me one day, Mrs. Howard, can't we just have a day where all we do is talk to each other? I've got curriculum, I've got things I gotta get through, right? It was the best thing ever. It was fantastic. So I told him, we'll see, and he's one of my ones who can get jobs sometimes. But I said, what? I'll see what I can do. Let me see what I can do. I bet I can work that into the schedule. And I did. I think it was a month later, maybe, there was a slot on the calendar that was just for that. What did you want to say? Question mark. And then I sent a letter home to the parents, giving them a website that they could go to get this list of conversation starters. Because I thought I'm going to need some really good questions. So maybe that's all we're going to do for the whole day, for 3 hours. Anyway, so I found on this website this really great sheet of conversation starters. I think there were 99 of them. As my teenagers at home were helping me cut these strips that took forever, we started reading them to each other. And my teenagers, who I forgot that I wasn't as connected to, because sometimes it's hard to be connected to them, because we get so busy and they don't necessarily want to be connected. We started doing this, and at first my daughter was kind of like, okay, whatever. But then she really got into it. By the time that I got to school to do this, I was so excited. And it was amazing. And I will say, at first when your preschoolers come in or your kindergartners, obviously they're going to be a little shy coming in. So not something for right away, but maybe a month or so in, if you have a day where you can do this, I wouldn't wait till the end of the year. Thank goodness for my student who asked, can we just talk all day? And we did. And we did it in like on the rug in a like kind of round setting. And the kids would pull one of the sentences or one of the questions. And I would read it out loud, and then that child got to answer. And everyone was silent. The other 19 kids were silent. And they listened to how their friend answered. And they knew they were going to get a turn. I was amazed the way that they paid attention. It was one of those lessons where I went, whoa, this is something new, and it's wonderful. So anyway, they loved it so much that I said, okay, we're going to be done with this for now. We're going to go to snack, and we're going to play when we come back up. If there's anybody who wants to do this some more today, go ahead and pick a blue stick. I'll be at the blue table, and we can do some more. I couldn't believe it. I had a couple students who that's all they did the entire morning. They never went to play. They just wanted to talk. They wanted somebody to know what they thought. They wanted somebody to listen to them uninterrupted. They wanted somebody to listen to them. I didn't even have to make comments except for, wow, I never knew that about you. That's awesome. They loved it. So anyway, I recommend it because it's a good way to build those relationships with the kids and make them feel special. They don't always get that, not even at home. So, okay, that was that. Transition times. I have one comment to make on transition times before you take over, Katie. Can you go to the next slide real quick? No, I don't remember. Lucky for you guys. Okay.
Okay.
I might think of it. So
I'm
yeah.
staying here? Okay.
Yes, these children are in a line, by the way, and that's why I picked that picture, because lines are like big difference for. Okay, so Katie Elsasser is going to teach about transitions because she's fantastic at transitions. Does anybody need to stand up and stretch one day?
I don't know if I'm exactly fantastic, but I do like to, I'm very aware of transition times because I feel like it's in my transition times that we have the most behavior, or we have things that are going on, or that's where the most attention is actually needed, is exactly when my attention is not exactly on them, is those transition times. And so we are actually going to make something, and since we're short on time, I'm going to let you guys make it while I talk, so that way we can speed things up. So if you ladies want to go over to the box and start passing them out, I will show you exactly what we have. This is something that I created when I was with Tamara.
She left me a set when she left my room.
I left them to her and she liked them, and they thought that it would just be something fun to make. So that way you guys can take something home for your time if you've got nothing else out of this. Because it's sparkly letters. So I just made letter sticks. Super easy, not even my idea. Stick from Pinterest. But they have just some poster board letters, glitter, one for each alphabet, all capital. I know some people want to do capital lowercase, whatever. But it's one of the things that the kids love the most to do. I have them, and as they're cleaning up, if I see they're dawdling, if I see that they're taking too much time, I'll run over to the rock, I'll sit down, I'll sing my little song, and you will watch them scurry to the rug because they want to be someone who gets to make a stick and go find a letter somewhere in our classroom. So whether it's a poster board, whether it's on a book in our book center, whether it's on the wall, whatever it is, in someone's name, they get the chance to find a letter. And I'm going to have to sing the song. And I really don't want to. There's actually two variations that I kind of picked up. One was from actually, I think, Mailbox, and one was from like Pinterest, and one was like, I think I sang too many different songs and just converged one of each into each other. So it kind of goes like this. All around the classroom, children look to see, can you find the letter? And sometimes I will tell them why, like at the beginning of the year, find one for me. And then I'll say, big Y, little y, any Y will do. And they'll take the stick and they'll go around the room. And this kind of helps them see what a Y looks like if they don't know. And they can go around the room and they will find their little Y. And they'll hold it up there and I'll say, all right, way to go, she found a Y. And then we'll say, everybody say, way to go, so-and-so. and then they'll come back to the rug. Sometimes I let them pass it to somebody, maybe if it's the letter we're doing that week, then we'll just keep with A's and everybody will find an A, or I'll pick a new one and I'll sing it and they'll sing with me. Transition times are so important for behavior. If you're not on the rug paying attention, whether they're cleaning up, you have roamers, you have kids not cleaning up, but if you find something that they want to do, they want to hold the stick, they want to find the letter, they'll be quick to clean up and come. You all have sticks, you all have tacky glue, you all have letters.
But we'll have to share.
Yes. You have a cup to set them in. If you go to Target and you see in the dollar bin, they always have cute little cups or bins that you can store them in or whatever you can find. You'll have to share. One thing that we always tell our preschoolers is be a good friend. Here's some social emotional. When you're at the table, ask your friend, would you like to use the glue first? Pass it to them. I like to do something with my boys that I've started this year. Be a gentleman. Let a lady go first. Ask a lady if they would like to do it. I even did a date day where I paired them up in partners. A boy had to pick a girl, and the boy had to ask the girl where they would like to play. That was their partner for a day. Some boys don't always like to play with girls, but they learn real fast. To help each other out.
I tell everybody real quick, Katie, so you need to grab it in the box. So there should be enough letters. Each of those bags should be enough for 4 of you to do the complete alphabet.
Yes.
So this is just a little bit of a kind of
Brain
brain break, and something different. So
But
just figure
share.
out a way to share. The tacky glue, if you don't keep your tacky glue on
We
your
have some
upside down, it's a nightmare. So yeah, there you go.
So somebody can be in charge of finding all the letters, or
Are they
some-
making complete alphabets?
Yes. You get to make the whole entire alphabet. If you do not have the whole entire alphabet, ask a friend to pass you a letter. Please talk to each other and help each other out.
The other thing, leave your sticker paper on the back.
Oh, yes. Okay, these are, okay, everybody freeze. Eyes on me, however you want to say it. They are sticker letters. It works best if you leave the paper on the back and just use tacky glue.
Otherwise, they'll
Okay.
get all stuck together in your cup.
Yes, and they will fall off.
And keep your tacky glue turned upside down if you can. This tacky glue is horrible if it's like half empty. It takes forever to get it back to the part.
I am still going to give you a few other ideas, so if you want to work quietly, that would be great. Transition times also come with routines of what is expected from the kids. Tamara uses a bell. I flick the lights. Some people might have a little clap. What I like to find is that if you have a plethora of those that the kids know, I also say macaroni and cheese, and all the kids say, everybody freeze. And I will not start until I have all their eyes on me. Now, throughout the year, they get a little tired of that. So, in Halloween time, I'll say, hocus pocus, and they all say, everybody focus. You know those good little chants. You can find them on Pinterest. I like to change them up, though, throughout the year and let them know because they get a little tired, and then they start to not listen. The most important thing with little kids at this age in transitions is to always have something ready. If they're waiting on you to get the next thing ready, that's when you're going to have behaviors. That's when you're going to have problems. I engage with the kids even as I'm walking over to get something. I'm talking to them. I'm asking them a question. All those things are great to use while you're transitioning.
I really like Hocus Pocus, everybody.
The kids like that. They also like the macaroni and cheese. Everybody freeze.
There's the 1, 2, 3 Iceland.
Yeah, they do 1, 2, 3 eyes on me. In our extended care, we do the clap, and then they repeat it. Sometimes the kids do it.
What's the lollipop? Tootsie Roll, lollipop.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Now everybody stop. Yep. That's a good one. I'm trying to think of
I do where you actually do clap your hands up along with it.
yeah.
And you do it slow and then faster.
I was gonna
Because
say-
eventually they all start doing it with you and they settle in.
I use different transitions for different times of the day. Like the clap, clap, clap your hands, or the Tootsie Roll lollipop. That's good for on the rug. But when we're at snack time and we have a long table and they're doing chit-chatting with their friends, I like to quietly do signs. Like I'll touch my nose and I'll touch my head and I won't say anything. And I'll just keep going, and then slowly more and more kids, and then I'll go a little bit faster, and they think it's funny, and then they're like, hey, the other kid will start doing it. The other one who was talking to him was like, well, what's going on? Why isn't he paying attention to me? And then he'll start doing it. So that's always a good one at snack time because it's kind of a little ripple effect. Another one that works really, really great, especially with older kids too, if you work with them, is just, I let my kids know I will start talking in 4 seconds. That's all I say, and then I just hold up my fingers. And I count to 4 or whatever number, and then they usually give me their attention. How are we going with the letters? Does anybody need any more sticks or letters or glue?
Because other people don't know it, you don't know it. We do have it.
I love that we're working on our alphabet. Does anybody have any transitions that they like to use or that they know that has been super effective for them during this time? A fun thing that we've done, the kindergarten teacher that I actually student taught for, she found a whole bunch of different noisemakers, like the little hands that clap, the little tubes that go whoop, whoop, whatever. And she would actually let the kids pick one for that day. And when it was time to clean up or when it was time to get their attention, they would just use just that one. And so that's something that you can build over time. If you find little things like that kind of help you. So it's not the same bell. It's not things like that. Technology-wise, there's a great app, and it's called Too Noisy. And I actually project it on the big screen. And it's like a gauge, a meter, like a gas meter or speedometer. And it has this happy face, and it's green and it's sunny. And if we get too loud, the meter goes up and it actually turns to a sad face. I will use that throughout the different times of the year, especially during like conference times when I want them to be playing like super duper quietly, or if we're doing something really important and I need to let them know and I can't keep stopping to remind them that they're getting too loud when they're playing or they need to be on task. So that's always a good thing that you can do. I know here at our school, they're always wanting us to incorporate technology as much as possible. So that's something that you can kind of use, and it's a visual for them. I don't have to do anything. They can see on the screen all on their own, whether or not they are on task or not.
Now, my song that I do with these sticks is different than Katie's. Katie taught me the correct way to do it, but I forget. And so I made up mine, okay? But yours is like, goes to the sound of what, Pop Goes the Weasel? All around, okay?
Yeah. There is two. I said that, and I'm like, I don't remember which one I sang. I knew I taught you one, and I did one, and then I kind of mixed the two.
I find myself using this one a lot when we're transitioning to go to snack and we're having bathroom breaks. I find that if we're all out in the hall waiting for our turn to use the bathroom, it's just not good. And so what I do instead is I'll sit down. It takes a little longer, but it's just better. I'll sit down in my chair with the cup with all the sticks in it, and I'll hold one up saying, do you know the letter? So
Oh,
it's to
that's
the
the one
to
I
the
missed.
Muffin Man.
Muffin Man.
And they'll say F, and it's really creepy all the way out. So do you know the letter F, the letter F, the letter F? Do you know the letter F? It makes the sound. And they all go, yes. And then I do her, all right, and I have Johnny. It's always Johnny. I've never taught a Johnny, actually. But I always say Johnny. Anyway, so, little Johnny gets to come up and get the stick, and then I'll say, Big J or Big F will let, any F will do. And then he'll go around and find something, and like she said, the kids clap for them when they're done. And then I say, okay, Johnny, head down to the restroom. Go body wash your hands and come right back, please. And then I start with the next one. So generally, I've only got 1 or 2 kids in that bathroom at a time. If it gets to where I'm saying fast or kids are finding the letters quickly, then I'll send an aide down to make sure that they're watching over the bathroom if I have more than 2 kids.
Well, the great thing is you know your kids and you know where they're at. So with me, you can change this in any transition to help you with what you need to focus on. If you are at the beginning of the year and kids may not know their sound, I will tell them the letter and I will show them the letter. But then towards the end of the year, I will just sneakily pick one as I'm singing the song, and then I will hold it up, and they like to be like the quick draw, like who can name the letter first? And they tell me the letter or their friends, and they'll say a sound, or they can find something that starts with that. You can change it. Do you know? Like you can just sing. I make up random songs, so I don't always remember the words of the actual songs that I teach people because throughout the years, I just randomly make up words to songs as I go. The kids think it's funny. Me, I just have bad memories. Bad memories. So I just make it new, however it is. But you can change anything to go with what you need to do. If it's going to the restroom and you want to do something like that, that works perfectly. If you are just trying to get them to come to the rug and they're taking a long time, you can do something different. Standing up, a good head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Just a quick little, like, having them copy you. That works. Starting a story, asking a question, doing all sorts of things that you can adapt to what it is that you are learning about or working on that day helps greatly. But they love this throughout the year, entire year, and there's so many different variations that you can do. You don't even have to sing a song. They like it, but I love songs. I'm horrible at remembering the words to the songs. I can remember tunes. I'll get about halfway there and I'm like, hey, do you remember what comes next? And so I kind of put it off on them because I really forgot, which is horrible because I'm only 30. So my memory should not be this bad. But it helps in just incorporating them and moving it along so they know that you're paying attention, you're watching, and you're ready to go.
We wanted you guys to have this tool because it's one that they, like she said, they don't get tired of, and it's versatile. And I've been using it. How many years have you been in the other room now? 2 years?
Yeah.
And I've been using the same set. They haven't broken down. They're staying together. The kids love them, and they just don't get tired of it. So it's one of those teaching tools that goes a long way. So I told Donna that we wanted to do this. And I said, can we get the funding for that? How does that look? What's it look like? And I go, because I'll pay for it if I have to. I want them to take this home today, or that day. And she said, well, we could cut it like out of cardboard. And I said, but then it won't sparkle. I said, then the kids won't make cakes anymore. They don't want to hold a stick that's like a cardboard letter. Can you imagine cutting out that many cardboard letters?
No.
No. So anyway, so we got it.
She got these over here.
Yeah, she has the teacher. Make sure that you punch out the holes.
You
in
lose
there.
your fun teacherness when you become a business.
No, you just have to look at budgets, unfortunately.
Yes.
That's the biggie. Things get expensive, so. But yeah, and I wanted to get you guys all a cute little bucket too, like ours, but we figured you could get a bucket for $1 somewhere.
You don't want to be
Slides on.
Here, yeah.
Then we'll get them actually run off.
I don't know
I'm
for that
Go ahead.
So do you think we use this too for transition?
Absolutely. Questions,
Yes.
anything is good for transition time. Songs are always good, stories are always good. But like I said, it's You have to have a flow of what you're doing in the classroom. Like I wouldn't necessarily sit down and read a story if I'm trying to get my kids lined up and out the door. Okay, I might do a fun song, bring them to the rug. Okay, now go ahead and go if you're done. If it's opposite state, we're doing opposites. Who can tell me opposite for red? Boom, thank you, go to the rug. You know, who can tell me something that starts with the letter J? Awesome, go line up. You know, things like that, we're just keeping them moving. So they're thinking, they want to answer, they want to get in line, and we're going. So it's just being conscious and over time, knowing where are you trying to herd this cattle to? Basically it is, you're wrangling them in, where are you trying to get them in, what direction, and what would be best for you? A song, a story, a question.
You use the whiteboard. You use the whiteboard to have them to draw something before they go down, or no? I do that.
Sometimes it depends on what it is. Because sometimes if you're doing something at the whiteboard, it might take a little bit too long because everybody wants a turn. The great thing with this is that I will do 1 or 2 letters and I'll tell them, okay, we'll do some more at the next transition time. So that we don't have to sit and make sure that everybody gets a question or everybody has the same answer. Because sometimes if you're like me and you like to talk and time management is hard for you, then you gotta hurry up and get to PE class because you're already a couple minutes late. So it just depends on what you're doing and over time what's comfortable for you. I hope you guys enjoy this and really use it to your own. I think that's the biggest part of being a teacher and knowing what works best for you. This worked for me. When I was looking for stuff, it stuck. Yeah, it stuck. It worked for me. I use it all the time. If it's not something you're going to use all the time or you can't make your own, as a teacher knows, it's just not going to do you any good. So that's why you find a song, you find a story, you find something that you're comfortable with, that you feel the groove. New teachers, you find one thing, you stick with it, you expand when you have time. That's the perfect thing. They don't know any different, so you get to kind of fool them with your little magic.
Okay, so Jen and I were just talking though, for like a 3-year-old perspective of this, yeah, they're not, this is way. But maybe toward the end of the year, if you laid them all on a table and you said, find the letter for me and tell me what it is. And if they can go just pick it up off the table, identify the letter for you, or like Jen said, even hand them, pass them out and say, now go find a color that matches. Or go, you know,
That is something that
it doesn't have to be, you know, like you said, it's a tool.
Yes.
We can build whatever we want.
And the awesome thing is, there are 6 of us working in the school. We have 3 classrooms. We're constantly coming in. Hey, do you know where this is? Interrupting teaching time. A great thing that happens, or a little transition that I do, is okay, I want everybody to tiptoe. Go find something in the room that is the color of blue. And so they have to quietly stand up. Okay, good, and come back. Okay, go find something that is the shaped circle in our room. And so that they're touching tangible things. I can talk to an adult while they're going and actually doing something with my house. Another thing for 3-year-olds with this, another idea is maybe hold up the letter you're working on and a different letter and say, can you find which one is the A? So you can use it, just adapting to how it works for you. That's a perfect idea. Thank you for that.
Something, I was actually just at one of the early learning guideline classes a couple weeks ago. I think this is the one where they addressed it, but they were talking about transition times. And they pointed something out to me that I hadn't thought about before. Do I have everybody's attention back again now? Because this is actually interesting, I think. If you think about how many times you transition during the day, I don't know if Katie said this exactly or not, but we have so many different transition times. Whether it's we're cleaning up centers and switching to a new center, we're going down to the library, we're going to snack, we're using the restrooms. There's so many times during the day that we're transitioning. And if you think about it, like if you have a half-day program, so you've only got these kiddos for 3 hours, and you were to actually add up the minutes that you spend in transition, that's a lot of teaching time that you're losing. And we don't have a lot of teaching time, but we only have them for 3 hours. So doing something like this, you're doing literacy in a fun way during your transition times. So there's just so many ways that you can fill those times so that you're not losing teaching time. And I know I had mentioned to Katie, because I wasn't sure if she did it or not, but I will use my whiteboard if I'm only sending one child to the bathroom at a time while we're getting ready for snack, and I've got time to do it that morning. Then if we're working on a letter, then I'll say, okay, who can show me how to draw the letter, whatever. Well, they all want to do it on the whiteboard. And so as soon as they're done, they're the one who goes to the bathroom now. Next kid comes up. And again, eventually I might send my aide down to monitor the bathroom if I have too many going down there. But you can do that with shapes on the board. You can do it with numbers on the board, whatever. Sometimes we do, let's guess what Mrs. Howard's drawing today. And they actually will say, can we guess what Mrs. Howard's drawing? And so I'll actually just start drawing lines and curves, angles, whatever, and eventually make a tree or eventually make a house, whatever. But they love doing that too. So that's a good way to keep them engaged. So.
Another thing that I do, a lot of it is literacy, but just depending on what time we have, if we're doing like the letter A, what I do is I put a big A, capital A and a little A on my whiteboard, and a few kids at a time throughout the whole entire week, because it's hard to get them all in at one time, is if they're sitting down and they're quiet and I'm waiting for other friends to join me or whatever it is, if they're in the bathroom or however, I'll say, okay, how do you spell your name? They have to tell me how to spell their name, and I will help them if they don't know, and I will write it for them. And then if they have that letter, say it's A, and they have a letter A in their name, then after they spell it for me, they get to come up and underline the A's in their name. So we make a kind of a graph on the board throughout the week of yes and no's, who has an A, who doesn't have an A, and then we'll talk about it too. So you're getting a little math, you're getting a little bit of literacy, and you're using up all that small free time. And it's just sometimes those things you say, hey, wow, look, how many, has an A? How many do not have an A? Look at the line. How can we tell? Well, this line is way down here. This line is not. And you do it in just a small time. Oh, I got 2 kids' names on the board, and everybody's with me, and we're ready to roll. All right, looks good. We'll get some more the next time, and then they kind of have something to look forward to because they want to come and get their name on the board. So they'll clean up so that they can make sure that they're on the rug and they can put their name on the board. So it's just finding things like that intrigue them and help you go through your process, what you need to do. And it's teaching across the board. You're hitting all this stuff in a small amount of time, and it's just reiterating what you can do. So it's just using as much as you can with what you have.
Thank you.
And it's short and easy. Thank you. It doesn't cost anything.
Something that we're going to put on the website that I forgot to tell you guys about was social emotional development and them being comfortable and happy in your classroom. We do all about me in the classroom, and we'll put a sample up there. There's a sample letter that goes for parents, and it's just a project they do at home with their family. This is my name. They can do it in glitter. They can do whatever they want. They can write it. Mom can write it. They can cut letters out of a newspaper. It doesn't matter. So it's all about them. And they get a chance to do the start of the week. And the kids love learning about their friends. When the kids are done presenting, like I'll help present. And at the end, they get to bring in their favorite toy and show it to their friends. And then while that child is putting their toy away, I ask the other students, can you tell me something you learned about your friend Johnny today? And they all raise their hands and take turns saying something they learned. And it really kind of helps the classroom, I think, because they feel more connected to their classmates and less likely to be unkind to them when they know them better. So that's important too. Okay, so moving on. This is going to be really brief. I lost my slide flipper. Okay. Does everybody want to stand up and stretch for a couple minutes? I can keep talking while you're standing. I mean, I don't have to do the stretches with you, but if you feel like standing up, go for it. So we're going to go through approaches to learning quickly. Now, this is part of the early learning guidelines also. And so you can read all about it in your early learning guidelines manual, and then I won't talk at you forever on this one. I do want you to know that there are classes for each of the early learning guidelines. It is only like $30, I think, and you get to go for 6 hours of continuing education. It's only $30. If you can get your administrator to reimburse you, that's what we do here. You can go to that. They feed you while you're there. You can go. Yeah, it's nice. All about food. You can go for 2 3-hour sessions. Sometimes they have it on a Tuesday and Thursday night for 3 hours each on one subject, or you can go into a Saturday class where they get the whole 6 hours done in one day. Part of what we'll probably be doing is something we do at our school, and we'll be looking at doing for the Archdiocese, maybe eventually, depending on the schools, is right now, if you are certified through or licensed through the Department of Health and Human Services, because maybe you have a daycare portion or something like that to your program, or even if your preschool is, then you are required to get 6 to 12 hours done a year, depending on how many hours you work. So we've always done that with our staff, though. We require everybody to go for 12 hours just because it doesn't hurt to go and learn something new or to freshen up our memories. Because when I leave these classes, I typically bring at least a few things back with me, or at least feel kind of refreshed and ready to do some things with the kids. So anyway, so that's going to be encouraged that people go to some of these classes, so we know where this Foundation for Our program is from. So Approaches to Learning, they will talk to you for 6 hours on Approaches to Learning alone. So what I've been doing is just real quickly skimming through. They will give you a whole 6 hours for your $30, and it is worth it. So, okay, so with Approaches to Learning, this section, when we were putting together our assessments, was kind of boggling to us because it's kind of vague. But really, it's all about how does the child learn? What experiences are they coming into the classroom with that has made them think a certain way? How are they looking at things when they come in? So knowing how your child learns is very important. So getting that figured out, and that your guidebook will help you with that. But it's things about when they are, do they ask a lot of questions? Are they curious? Are they being creative? Okay, so it's the way that they approach learning. It's the way that child is approaching learning. And there's all kinds of ideas in there on how to kind of assess that. And then also some opportunities you can give them to keep growing in those abilities, and ways that you can ask questions, encourage them to ask their own questions. That's really what this is about. And the more that you let them do the thinking, with you just encouraging by plugging ideas in there, the more you let them do the thinking, the more you let them draw their own conclusions, come up with their own answers, whether it's when they're putting together, some kind of toy structure or just something they're working on. The more you can do that, the more confident they're going to be as learners. Because we spoon feed a lot, and we just stand and lecture a lot, unfortunately, even in preschool sometimes. And so it's important not to do that. It's important to let them kind of take the lead sometimes, and to have them be asking questions. So, and so really I was going to ask you is, what kinds of activities can we offer? We can talk about that with toys tomorrow. How's that? So we'll move on from Approaches to Learning. So you guys saw this toy in my classroom. With the girls, this is my group, my class where I had 12 girls. And it was really fun and interesting, and they talked a lot. But anyway, so, but they made this structure together. They had to figure out how to put it. They kept falling over. I'd say, well, what do you need? What do you think will help with that? So they got really good at it. And you see, she's having a little difficulty pouring the water in because the opening for that is heading sideways instead of straight up. And so later I was like, okay, well, the water keeps spilling out there. What can you do to change that? So I'm just guiding them, be a guide for them to help them learn to think. It'll get them a long ways in the future. So they loved doing this because they built something and then they got to see what happened afterwards. And I always made them make predictions, or have them make predictions. So if you pour it in here, what's going to happen? Where's it going to come out? What's your guess? And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, but we'll talk about that when we talk about science.
Do you limit the number of kids at your center?
Yes, I only have 4 in the Science Center. There are 5 here because they were so excited. They wanted to watch her pour it in there, and I said, okay. So a group of them can come over and yeah. But typically, or actually here, these 2 girls, I think were in the pink center, and then these girls were with her in this center, but then when it was pouring time, they just all were engaged. So yeah. So, okay. Ooh, the concept of yes. This is a real quickie. This was at one of the early learning guidelines classes. One of the instructors said this, and it just was when the light bulb went on. You know what I mean? When you have those moments, even as a teacher, the concept of yes. So we have a dilemma as preschool teachers, even kindergarten teachers, I think, in that there are all these things that we're supposed to make sure the kids know how to do, right? I mean, all this academic stuff that we're supposed to at least expose them to, and a bunch of them pick it up and some don't. And my problem with that is if I were to place some high frequency words in my classroom, because we're supposed to maybe have them, be familiar with 25 of them before they go to kindergarten. Let's just say that were the case. Let's say someone suggested that, who knows? Okay, so then my problem with that has been, well, then I've got these kids who were just ready because they were advanced and they were ready, and they just picked it up like that, and they were ready to go. But then I've got this child who's in the middle who maybe is getting a little stressed out because they don't know the letter sounds, but the girl next to them does, and they figured out that they don't and she does, right? And now that child's their confidence is gonna start decreasing, and I don't like that at all. And then I got my little guy who's oblivious to the whole situation. He has no clue that we're even talking about letter sounds. Okay, so we have, and Katie will be talking about this more in just a minute. So we have this spectrum of kids, and if I keep on teaching the ones who are ready for the really high concepts, what's going to happen to the other guys when they hit kindergarten? Because now everything's been stepped up, right? And now we've got lack of confidence with some of these kids, and that worries me a lot. But I also know that there's progress, and you have to keep moving, especially when you know when they go to kindergarten they need to know this. So even though I would rather if my kids played all day long, I know that I have to teach them these other things, and some are going to get it, and some are not going to get it yet. So I am now teaching my preschoolers, as of 2 months ago, the concept of yet. And it looks like this. I'm going to be teaching you the sign language for this letter. And I know some of you already know this letter, and you know the sound it makes, and some of you don't know it yet, and that's fine. Some of you, the sign language is going to be really fun, and you're going to love it, and it's just for fun anyway. And some of you, it's going to be hard for you because you're just not ready for it yet. And it's okay. Now, you think that talking to preschoolers this way is kind of over their heads, but it's not. It's not. I talk to the preschoolers like they're adults. And it's amazing what they have to say when you give them the chance to tell you something. They are so smart. So, anyway, so the concept of yet. Tell the kids, I'm going to be doing this with you guys today. Maybe towards the end of the year, I'm sometimes out words with the kids, right? And some of them, it's really stressing, and you can tell there's those kids who just want to do everything perfect and they're not getting it. Or maybe I started doing some basic addition and it's really stressing a child out. And I look at them in the eyes and I go, hey, just so you know, I know she totally got that. That was amazing, because that's, it's kind of out there. They'll do that in kindergarten. I'm just doing it just in case somebody wants to do it for fun. But you don't have to know it yet. I'll let you know if it's something we really need to know. But that way you can so that's the concept of yet. I love that word now because it's something the kids can grasp onto. So, and Katie's going to talk about how to deal with, differences in our classroom depending on who we've got.
She can just keep talking. I don't need to come back up here, right, guys? So how many of you know differentiation? Familiar with it? I mean, it's differentiation. Are you familiar with it?
Or is it a new concept to some of you? Are there some of you who haven't heard it before?
Back in the 1923, I think it was, there was a huge amount of differentiation that she had to have with people from the age of 6 and the age of 18. We talked a little bit in the classrooms when you guys were taking your tours and your visits about how big of a change it is from just 6 months in your classroom. Those of you who've been in the classroom, you know how big, and just the yets, who's ready, who's not yet there. So that is kind of differentiation. And the main thing that I like to think about for that is like 3 concepts. To handle differentiation, it's one thing that I really kind of love. That's that aha moment for me in the classroom. I'm constantly trying to figure out, what does that kid need from me to succeed? What can I do for them? What sparks them? This is a topic that covers everything we've talked about today. You have to have a lot of key points across the board to do differentiation. Observation, connection, change and growth. When I was thinking about differentiation, I like to go on tangents, so my mind went crazy and I was on a whole spiel while I'm driving in my car, like, what am I gonna tell them about? I don't know what to talk about. And according to the 6-year-old who I babysit who was in my class, I'm like, I am so nervous. What am I gonna tell them? Like, I don't know, I got so many ideas. He's like, talk about volcanoes. I like the volcanoes. I'm like, volcanoes, it might not work for differentiation, but at least I know he liked them. And it was good feedback from the 6-year-olds. But observation, connection, and change are 3 key things that I find that you need to handle those differences in your classroom. Observation is huge. Every little thing that you are doing with those kids is an observation of what they can handle or what they might need. Scissors might be easy. Gone over, let me help you. Let me turn your paper right side up. But to step back and let them demolish that paper so that, hey, they can't do this on their own. Okay, side note, as I'm walking around, he needs another paper, but he also can't handle scissors. I'm making a note of that, okay? Always asking questions. Who's sitting on the rug? Who is engaged in stories? Who is following directions? Who likes to color? Who can write their own name? Who's just paying attention to what the kid's doing next to them? Like, who's lost, So like, those key little things are big throughout the year that I pay attention to. Observation is key also on your assessments. What to look for. What are you even observing them doing? What am I supposed to be paying attention? Knowing what you're assessing them on, knowing what they need to know, that's when you can start observing and knowing what really to look at. Calendar. Who can come up to the calendar and do the days of the week or go right to left? Who has no problem when I try to trick them? Hey, that's not a 6, that's a 4. Okay, they're grasping the concept. Maybe they need a little bit more number recognition. Maybe they're not into it at the rug time. You never know. But it's observing constantly throughout the year on the things that you are going to observe or assess them. Connection, number 2. That is a huge thing because, like she said, what if you didn't eat today? What if you don't know what's going on with your life? What if there's always one you just don't click with? You have to find yourself knowing about that kid. We had one little boy all year, my first year, and he did not want to do anything. Learning time? No way. I bet you have a million of them. Is it center time yet? Is it playtime yet? I'm like, dude, you just walked in the door, you hung up your coat, like, to play. Like, when you come to school, it's all about playing, but we gotta learn and do some work, we gotta get going. But what gets them going? Making a connection. It goes a long way. I had a little squirrely boy. I loved watching him in kindergarten, but the kindergarten teacher didn't find him as loving as I did. But I had a different connection with him. I could get him to do stuff. His mom requests me for T-ball because she knows they have a connection. I know he'll listen to her. So I'm like, dude, you gotta throw the ball. It's okay. But he'll tell me his stories. I'll check out his awesome new Skylander that I know nothing about, that I learned a lot about just to make a connection with him so I could talk about it. And then it engages. You form that trust. You know what's going on with those parents. You talk to them. But you have to know, like our squirrely boy who never wanted to do any work, finally we figured out that he just wanted to play. All right, you do a little bit of work, you earn your little bit of playtime. Now he had other issues going on, sleep, and a whole bunch of other stuff, but that got him throughout the whole entire day that we at least got some work out of him. He was learning his name. He wanted one-on-one attention. You do good, we'll go play a game together. He thrived on that, making that connection. Change and growth. How many of you are the same as you were yesterday? Nobody, right? If you look at your kid in September and then in December, are they going to be the same? No, their needs change. You constantly have to change. I have to change. That's hard for some people some teachers are set in their way. I only know how to teach letters this way. Well, they're not getting it. You need to figure out something else that will engage with them and that might work for them. So that is a huge thing that I try to keep in mind constantly with my kids. I know it's hard. We have 20 of them. I don't know how many are in your class, but when you know those things and you can observe them, differentiation can be super simple. I put Miss Maka, my age, she may not know it sometimes, but throughout the year, we put out name tags in the morning. We have a certain craft to do. The kids who talk and take forever. The kids who can't cut. The ones who need more help. Yeah, they're gonna go to the big round table by Miss Maka. And she may not know it, but I just set their name tag there, and then you see kind of the same ones. I know that the kid who likes to cling on to mom needs to be farthest from the door when they come into the morning and we do our morning work. So I can kind of, thank you, see you later. That's the simplest thing about differentiation. Those little tweaks that you know, I know that kid. He's great. We love him. But he talks to Sarah and Billy every day. He's going to be on the side where he can only talk to one person. And that's going to be me, you know, like, because he's going to get his work. I want him to play. I want him to be successful. So it's making those little tweaks, knowing the work of your kids. Sometimes sitting down one-on-one, I do a lot too. I know that a lot of us are kind of working differently in what's being incorporated with letters, and they're talking about like reading groups or just like different small level groups. You're working with some high kids, low kids. I like to put kids that I know who can follow a direction and know what to do on the project, maybe next to like my middle kid who might need a little help, you know, put them next to each other so they can see what's going on. As long as it's not something I'm going to be assessing and that I really want to see if they know it, I'll put them next to somebody that they can look off of, because I know that's going to help keep them going, and they're going to get, if it's just following directions and cutting. So that way it's not taking forever. Like Annie said, well, the threes, we may not use this. That's differentiation.
Yeah.
You can take anything and figure out how it works for you and apply it to you. There's a lot of times I look online, there's something with sight words. Half the time there's a million things for sight words. Guess what? You can take that same exact thing and apply it to letters or letter sounds. They don't have to be exactly that, and that is just simply making that same thing. It's maybe I'm asking Johnny what the letter sound is, but I'm asking Sarah what letter this is. I'll pull over 3 kids that I know can't write their name, and we'll do a little activity, and I'll have her work on it while I pull 4 kids and we'll play a game on letters. And then the next time maybe the next day I'll pull a couple kids who I know all their letters, and we'll start working on sounds. So it's just taking the same thing. Our calendar, we do all the same. It's just in those little smaller moments. It's in those little tweaks of where they're sitting, how you talk to them, what questions you ask them. That's the differentiation that you can add into your preschool to kind of help it run smoothly. So you're not running over there because Jimmy's about to poke himself in the eye with the scissors when he really needs to probably be sitting over here by a teacher, so he doesn't have loss of hair at the end of the day. One of my favorite quotes that I kind of found says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. That is a big thing that I think sometimes we forget. We're so key on what we need to teach them, where they need to be, they got to learn this, they need to know this before kindergarten. It's just love and happiness. Call me a little hippie in that way, but I don't care what you try to teach a kid. If you don't have the ability to grow and change yourself, to set them up with a loving environment, they're not going to be successful in what they do, or you're not going to reach them as much as if you're okay with where they're at. I had a little girl this year. She didn't know her name. She couldn't tell you the letters in her name. But by the end of the year, she was actually able to write her name. Whereas the beginning of the year, it was just lines up and down every way. that was a success for us. I had a kid reading words in books, and I had her writing her name. And I don't want people to get lost in shoveling words or different information and forget that these little ones too are successful just by writing their name and what they have come and accomplished in the long run. Before I'm done, or if we have any questions, one thing with the book that I just read kind of helped me with is curiosity. They talked about that in Approaches to Learning, and I think it's kind of the same thing with differentiation, because you have to have that connection and appeal to the kids. And curiosity is really the key to growth. They said, you are not going to learn anything new if you know nothing about it. If you know a little bit about it, it sparks your curiosity, and then you're willing to grow. Just being able to approach it and to go after it, you'll be more willing to learn about it. So as we all have a little bit of foundation of what we know today, we may not be able to talk about everything in depth. You have a little bit of curiosity of what you can do, what you can change, and hopefully you get a little bit excited about, oh, maybe I can do this or not. It's not enough to ask questions, but we need to show them and involve them and change with them. That's all.
As far as I know that we have a couple people who are teaching at a couple different levels in their classrooms. And I know, Katie, you were talking about how sometimes you break groups down by mixing them, actually. And sometimes you break them down into where they're at by their learning level, depending on what it is that you're teaching, right?
Yes, and I didn't touch solely on more about techniques with this, because I feel that it's something that has to be comfortable with you
As an individual.
and your situation. If you, some classes do have 3s with 4 and 5s, and like when I talked about, like we do the whole calendar together, but then I'll ask more questions. I'll ask different questions and engage them. It might be different. So the higher learner ones will be able to do those questions. Or I'll have a kid who I know is higher. If he's up the calendar, I will actually switch spots with him and I'll sit on the rug and I'll let him teach me. You teach the kids. Do you think you can do it by yourself? But I wouldn't ask that of like a 3-year-old.
Right.
But they would still do the calendar. So in that sense, but you have to know your class and know like the needs of them. You might have a high 3, which we have in daycare, or a transition kid. If they're mixed, a lot of the times it is breaking it down too. If you have 3s and you have to teach a 3 curriculum with a 4-5 curriculum, a lot of things that we say to do is you can have the same project. You just might have the 4 or 5-year-olds cutting out their shapes and circles and gluing them together. And with the 3s, you just might already have them cut out of it. And all they have to do is apply it together. So they're still doing the same thing. The 4 or 5-year-olds just have more to do. So that way they're not feeling left out and you don't have to do 2 separate things all the time. Because let's be honest, who really has time to do that?
Create projects for both the 3-year-olds
Right.
and 4s and 5s.
You may be able to for some things, and they might be doing different things, but if you can't, you can just do things like that where you have a little bit more done already, or you have a little less for them to do.
Because then you might even have that with your 4 and 5-year-old class, you know, where, because I had it this year where I had kids who were just really so far ahead. They probably should have been in a 3-year-old class as far as where they were able to, what they were able to do. And then you've got the one who's ready to, they could be here, you know. And so that differentiated instruction is just being able to know where your child's at and bringing it to their level.
Just being okay. Like sometimes in our 4 and 5, like the little girl who couldn't write her name, we would have one project, and sometimes we'd have multiple projects for that day, but it would take her all day to get that one done. And so instead of having her miss out on like playtime, she would work and then she would come back to it. And we would be okay with her not doing some of the other projects depending on what they were and being engaged as long as she got the soul ones done. And just being okay with her getting that part done and not having to push so much just to get stuff done and checked off the list and put away.
Right.
So it's more just about the
It's about the
incorporation.
process
Mhm.
rather than, that end result a lot of times anyway. Yes.
I feel like our school has been doing that. I've taught for over 27 years now and stayed home, took care of my kids and stuff. But I taught a K through 8 rural school. And I had those grades by myself. And yes, you do have to differentiate. And when I came into our Catholic school and I got first, second, I've been doing that so easily for,
Yes.
Well, and once you do it, it's kind of like a light bulb. Like once you know it, you can't ever go back and unknow it. And so you start thinking of it in that way. And so like sometimes when we sit down and talk, it's like, oh, hey, well, why don't we just do this? Or why don't you have that do it? Or it'll already be in my head when we plan an activity. I'm like, oh yeah, she is not going to be able to handle this. So I'll just make sure she does that. And so that's the whole good thing too, is that once you become so familiar, 1923, it's been happening. It's always been there. And I don't think people really realize that they're already doing it.
yeah, they just gave it a name now.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
yes.
is. And the
Yeah.
key is like too, like you said, like each other is our best resource,
Yeah.
as teachers. And that's the biggest part of differentiation too, is that the way Tamara does it is so completely different from I do it, but we teach the same thing. And so I'm like, a lot of times my kids get it differently. And then I'll go ask her, even though she's a 3, she has a different brain process. I'm like, so how would you do this? Because I'm like, I'm having trouble. She's like, oh, you should totally do it this way, this way. I'm like, yeah, okay, like that would maybe work. Or I might try it or tweak it or something. But it's all about like using your resources and knowing like, sometimes I'll ask her because I'm like, I have a kid who is just like you. Like, what would you do with this? Because I do not connect with that. Like I don't. That's a mix of personalities, and vice versa. She don't know it, but she asked me, and I'm like, oh, you should totally do it this way, like or try this out. And so that's the beautiful part of it, is that people just don't realize that they're really doing it, but it is such a big thing sometimes.
Well, and there are some people who aren't doing it. Unfortunately, some people
Yeah.
say, oh, this is the project I have to do to meet this criteria. Okay.
Or
And they
it's-
put out all the stuff
Yeah.
and they expect everybody to be able to do it the same way.
I just
And
see
they
like
can't. So it does happen.
people who, like, we've all done it, but like they do a craft and they do it wrong and you're like fixing their eyes
Yeah.
or whatever, and it's like, no, that's not how it is. But it's like, all right, just let me slap it on for you because it's easy. Or sometimes like when new teachers, when you come into this situation, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do it with the classroom that's not together or this and that. And like, that's part of the instruction of differentiation. It's just using your resources around you too. And it seems scary, but it's doable. And just to know that you have certain things to do and look forward to.
You said you read a book. What was the book that you read?
This book is actually called Rising Strong, and it's by an author called Brene Brown. And it's actually the second book that I read of hers. The first one is called Daring Greatly, and it does really well with leadership and parenting and all different kind of stuff. But she's a good author.
Daring Greatly
Yes.
is the first one. And it's Brene Brown.
Brene. I say Brene, but I don't know how it's.
Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Somebody Brown. Daring Greatly. Okay. How's everybody doing?
Can we take a break?
We're running out of time, but do you want like a 5-minute break? Go to the restroom, get something to drink? Wanna do that? Go ahead. And then let's just be back in 5 minutes to finish up. We didn't have a lot of people bring things for group sharing, and that's okay because actually one of the teachers from Holy Cross is going to be sharing something with you on literacy, and that's a fun surprise. And I'll touch on teaching across the curriculum briefly and some language and literacy, and then we'll finish up with Jen with language and literacy. So take a break if you need it.
I already know that. I just accept
And they're like,
Right up my daughter's alley.
and so
ate the entire family. And then we're gonna get out the thing of ours that we used to like epoxy, like floor. And do that. And if you would just do that, I know, but still, I'm like, we gotta put a spring on it, because the first one has a spring on it. My knees and my legs and my feet down, like, I won one piece, and I was putting on my I couldn't bend my knees, so I'm like, this is horrible.
It is, I agree.
I'm like, okay. I didn't want to do that now, but I like, that's how we were taught. That's so funny. So you have like one hand, you can get all your stuff done, then you let go. That is so funny. No, that's how we were taught.
I was not taught that, but until later on.
Yeah,
I've heard of it now.
I'm
but
like,
yeah.
I never heard of it. It was the one that didn't shut the second big one. I had to go like I was watching this. I had a one piece. And then it's like super suction. And I was like, oh god, my knee. Like I we went to the water park and the girls used to work at Big Surf. My mom comes out of the bathroom. She's like, and the girls come out. And I'm like, what happened? My mom's like, you're so windy. Shut the door. And the big thing was, she goes, and I'm sorry, transgender bathrooms. If anybody wants to come in and see that, knock yourself out. My grandma's like, I don't want. I'm like, what do you think you're gonna see? Like shoe mirrors?
Oh my god. I know. I'm always the same way.
Well, I'm like, there's not enough room for the girls to toilet. So I hear when Amelia's like, can you help me? Like, and she's like, no, people say
Okay, so I have three animals. I had them separated and I was Robert C. here. I was here 19. Yes. Okay, but like I have fields and
your main setup, like projects, do you have separate?
well, it's kind of like what you said, we do the same projects, but like
The 3-year-olds do what they can do.
And the 4-year-olds do.
they can, and we try to help them, but it's just this. They just give up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, but you might have to do that.
Okay, so like, we're thinking of graduation. For us, it's like the 3-year-old. They didn't even read it, but they call it old cutoff for 4 or 5. And they are people who want more than just 2 days. So, and so,
And I that's what we're gonna do, is they go 2 to 3 nights, 3 to 3.
so what they're gonna do then is we're gonna kind of mesh what we do. It's a lot, but I don't know if it's gonna put it down.
I just think I struggle with the principles.
Yes.
All
So like if you do like,
I'm gonna ring the bell for people in the hallway. Okay, it's been a long day and we are on the home stretch. We're almost done. Tomorrow, just so you know, it's gonna look a little bit different than today did. Because tomorrow we're gonna be hitting more on curriculum. We're gonna be hitting more on those core areas. Today, these things are kind of a little bit more vague. The rest of what we're gonna be doing is a little bit more concrete, just so you know. So I did want to touch real quick on teaching across the curriculum. Oh, hey, that was for differentiated instruction. Celsester doesn't know this picture. Okay, so teaching across the curriculum, there are some things that we like to do that we do every week. I will make them available on the website that Donna has going for us. I don't even know exactly what that is. But I'm going to make sure that these things are available. And what's kind of nice about them is they hit almost every subject every time we do them. And sometimes it's a project we're doing that maybe takes like Monday, Wednesday, Friday to complete. It may be something that we're not going to do in one day, but it's going to hit different subjects as we go. And so just for an example, teaching across the curriculum where you're hitting those core subjects all together. This year, what we did is we did an alphabet adventure. Every week that we had a letter, okay? It was a short week, maybe we did. The year before that, we did the Noah's Ark alphabet, and the year before that, we did the alphabet train. They're all the same thing, they just look a little different. So every week that we had a letter, the children made one of these. Doesn't look fancy, but it was their own. They did it. It incorporated the letter of the week. So the first thing that happened was on Monday. Was it Monday? Yes. They came up, was it Monday they painted, or was that Wednesday?
We changed it to Wednesday.
That's right, okay. So on Wednesday, they came over to the art easel and they painted the letter of the week, and they used the color of the mountain. And this was our hot air balloon that went on an adventure. And each month, we had a different country that we visited in our imaginations. We showed them on the globe where the country was. We pretended to step into our basket, and we turned up the heat so that the balloons filled up, and we untied our ropes, and we got very into our imaginations, and we took off. And as we went over the countries on our adventure, and I pointed on the globe where we were passing, they were looking down because I would say, oh my goodness, I see the ocean down there. Look, we have to cross the ocean now. What do you see? And they're like, I see a whale. They were so excited. It was really fun. We switch up what we're doing each year just in case we have any kids who repeat, and just so that we don't get tired of it. It makes a big difference for us too. I loved doing this one this year. So this was Katie's creation. This is Friday again. So we had, we learned about a new country every month. So we're doing social studies though, right? And when we learned about those countries, we learned about the people. We learned a little bit about what the land layout is like. We learned about the foods that they eat there and why, whether they're right next to the ocean, so they eat a lot of seafood. And so we learned all of those types of things we learned cultural things about the people there. The most important thing about that piece of it for me was that we learned that God made people different. God made people people special. And that God did not want us all to be the same at all. My children for sure knew that by the first month into school. But we would show videos of different things in that country. So 1 week, on the month that we were working on Brazil, we went to visit Brazil. 1 week we talked about Christ the Redeemer statue, and we pulled up on our projector pictures of that, and they were beautiful, showed them all different pictures, and the kids just loved it. They kept saying, let's look at that one. Can we see that one? And we kept rolling through all these pictures. And they loved learning about that statue and who made it and why and what was it made of. And it got hit by lightning once and, or damaged it once. I'm sure it hit more than once. But anyway, so okay, we learned about God. God's in all of our lessons, by the way. We'll talk about religion tomorrow. But we learned about all these different countries and these different people and how God made the people special and he made our earth wonderful just for us. Okay, so that was the big concept. And then we also got to learn about our shape of the month. So our shape of the month was, guess what? A circle. Yep, the basket was always the shape of the month. And in the first month, we had pre-cut the basket for them because they weren't quite ready with the scissors yet. But by like the second or third month in, didn't matter what the shape was, they were cutting out that shape themselves. So they were getting their fine motor skills going with this lesson, teaching across the curriculum. So they did their fine motors, they got to do some gluing. So we got some literacy on here. Not only did we show them how to make the letters the right way, we start here, we go here, it's a short diagonal to the left, all that. When they painted it with us, we really were careful to make sure they were doing it the right way. And then we talked about the phonics. We talked about the sound that that letter makes. And we went ahead and put something on our basket to take to Brazil to show them when we got there. What did we bring the people in Brazil in our basket? This time it was yarn, because yarn starts with the letter Y. Okay. So we have cutting. They cut out their balloon. They cut out their circle. They're doing some gluing, and they're doing some painting. They're learning about letters, shapes, which is math, social studies. So we really, what's that?
Religion.
And religion.
Direction college.
Direction college, yes. Okay, so, and just to kind of give you just a little look at some of them, it was kind of fun. So the color of the month here was pink. The shape was an oval. We were talking about Ireland that month because it was March, and they took umbrellas to show them in Ireland what we were learning about. The first one we did was America. We learned about America first. They knew where we were leaving and where we were heading, and that was the shape of the month. And we learned about the flag that day. So each week we learned about a different thing about that country. That when they came in the morning, they sat down to do seat work. I had a picture of the American flag on the screen pulled up, and they knew what colors to use to color their flag. They stuck an ant on there to take because it started with the letter K. So basically there's a bunch of them. We learned about England one month, and our shape was the cross. The cross will be on your math assessment. When you look at the assessment tools, if you choose to use those, we put cross in there just because we can. We like to. And I always tell the parents that when at the first conference when their child didn't know what a cross was, and I say that's okay because it's not a typical shape that you usually teach your kids, but we do just because we can. So, and then here we went to Germany and we put jewels in our basket. We learned about Egypt one month. So we had hieroglyphics, and they loved learning about the hieroglyphics. They thought that was fantastic. Some of them were trying to write their name with hieroglyphics because we had a chart out for them. And they had netting that they took to Egypt. And we learned about China one month. So each month we did the flag, and then we did other things that were kind of pertinent to that country, something special about the country. So that really is just a brief, idea as far as teaching across the curriculum. It's getting all those areas in. And the other years, these weren't as pretty, but I really like our balloons. I think we're doing something different next year, I don't remember what, but we did trains. We did a train one year, and it was always just a half sheet of paper that they had that was the color of the month, but they cut out the wheels that were the shape of the month. So each month was a different shape. Parents said, oh yeah, we hung them all in their bedroom. They had each, so you could see what colors and shapes and all that they were learning about. And then they glued something on top that they were taking on their train. They weren't taking it anywhere. If we do trains again next year, because I think it's time to rotate through, if we do trains, the trains will be going somewhere. Even if it means it has to stop and they're going to take a boat to get to that country. But the trains will be heading somewhere so we can talk about religion and talk about social studies. I didn't have a sample of this. I was really surprised, but this was actually one of my favorites. Probably not one of Katie's favorites. I am a science fan. I love animals. I love anything science and nature. And so this, well, okay. So this is just our template that we used, that we photocopied onto like some tan paper. We did the Noah's Ark alphabet. And so each week the kids got to paint the letter with the color of the month. They came to the easel and we taught them how to make that letter the right way. It says A is for anteaters. So basically the whole year I got to talk about animals. And we taught them how to draw the animals very simply. By the end of the year, those kids could draw. They could really draw because we just said things like, okay, well, what does an anteater look like? What shape do you think we could use for its body? Would that be a square or an oval? What do you think? And it got to the point where they would just tell me, you need a circle for that head. Are the ears small or are they big? We're talking math now, right? Are they small or are they big? Are they round? Are they pointy? What are they like? And they would tell me and dictate to me while I drew a very bad looking animal on the whiteboard. And then they'd say, okay, head on over to the table. They went to the table and they cut out their art. And in the beginning of the year, they cut right across here, even though I told them not to, right? Some of them. But by the end, they were whizzes at cutting this out. And they could draw, and they would draw some amazingly cute giraffes. It was just, they were stunning. It was awesome. And to see their progress. So I loved it. We taught them all kinds of science facts. We could incorporate something like, what country does this animal come from? And talk a little bit about the country.
We also did a door on the ark. That was the shape and the color of the month.
That's right. Yeah, the door. They would cut out a door to put on the ark, and sometimes it was a circle, sometimes it was a rectangle. And the door was also the color of the month. Thank you. I forgot about that. So yeah, there's ways to do that. That's a weekly project. And it's something you can use for literacy. You can use it for everything. And the kids, they really enjoyed it. I mean, some would get a little tired out of it. Gosh, it didn't seem like it this year with the balloons. So, okay, so that's teaching across the curriculum. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to say?
The very hungry caterpillar we kind of did teaching across the curriculum. I don't know how to share it, like the writing and the craft and the painting.
You want to tell about it? My brain's not going there right now. We did the very hungry caterpillar. We did a lesson with that, and
It's a very big project. Those that we have incorporated over the years, it's very hard, but I just want you guys to know that everyday things happen to go across the curriculum often and a lot. So one thing that we kind of did this year is just the book Very Hungry Caterpillar. Many of you know that. We did it during Bee Week for Very, obviously. But we did a few things that was new in a couple days that I kind of really liked. So on the first day, we talked about the story. And one big thing that I kind of really like that kind of touches on literacy also is incorporating a story into lessons. And our daycare program does that a lot that I like to do. But we also do a couple different things. And this is kind of something that we did last year, and we expanded on it this year a little bit more, and it was kind of fun to talk about. So we did a simple, nice little Pinterest activity where we did a little cute caterpillar hat. The first day we kind of just read the story. We reread it. We had them retell us. So you got your sequencing, I think the days of the week, a fun little craft to do. And then on the next day, we reread the story and we did some writing. Writing is one of my most favorite things to do. I came up with this little template. It says, I'm so hungry I could eat. And you can find tons of stuff like this. I just took an oval and had some other writing paper and copied and pasted a cute little caterpillar. But each kid had to write what they were hungry for. Now, some differentiation that you can talk about here too is a lot of times we write in highlighter, they trace the words. When they get a little bit older, we have some of the kids this year, I don't think I have a sample of it, where they tried to we'll write it on paper and they copy it, so it's their own writing, or we then talk about sounds and see if they could do their own writing. Some of it was kind of long. This one said, I'm so hungry I could eat 1,000 chips. They then had to draw a picture that went along with it, and they had to color it. You have to
And they also cut out their ovals and they did their gluing.
Yes, they cut out their old ovals, they glued, they colored. I'm so hungry I could eat kiwi and flower petals. And so they just did a couple different things. Then I made a caterpillar, and they love to obviously see their work, know what's going on. So we hung it out in the hall, and the little ovals became part of the caterpillar's body. And parents loved it because one kid this year said, I'm so hungry I could eat 40 spinach and tuna fish sandwiches. And I was like, wow, that is such a combination. And mom thought it was so hilarious because that's what dad always teases them that they're going to have for dinner. So then it all made sense, but I was just like, okay, I'll put whatever you want. Go for it. And then we expanded on it. So the writing portion is what I really liked. But I've kind of gotten a little into my art roots, and my brother's a little artist. And so I incorporated, I did save it. We did it differently, and that's perfect. She had a different approach than I did. But yes, always, and it's fun to kind of see. We talked about then the story, again, if you hold it. If you want. We read the story again, and this time I had 2 different kinds of books out. And we talked not only about the author the first day, what the job of the author was, but this day we talked about the illustrator. And it just so happens that the illustrator today's for this one was the same as the author. We talked about, what do you see in his pages? Then we looked at a different book. Well, what did this illustrator do, but this one didn't? Why is it different? What did he use? We talked about the art. We talked about artists use different techniques and styles. So we're being creative. They're thinking, they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, did he just use yellow and just color it yellow like this person did for the sun? Or what did he do? And they're like, oh, he used yellow and green and a dark yellow and a light yellow. So they helped me mix the paint, and then we had all different kinds, and they loved it. And so actually, I drew the caterpillar. She had a really awesome student who drew the head of the caterpillar. For mine, I drew the shape, and then each kid got to paint a couple portions of the body, how they think that Eric Carle would paint in the style that Eric Carle would paint. So using lots of different colors into there to mix and kind of create. And so we kind of talked about style and artist and what it means to be an illustrator, how to draw, and it all incorporated with the same kind of thing that kind of went off of this. So that's a good way of taking one simple project, which you see a lot of times, and just teaching across the board and across the curriculum to hit a couple different things. And it's fun, and they loved it. They learned something new, and they kept asking me, can your brother come in and teach us about art? And all this stuff, and I was like, well, maybe one day, but.
And it is great to bring people in to teach the kids something different. If you have parents, I had a parent who was a cook and wanted to come in one time. I had a parent who was an artist, and she brought in all kinds of supplies, and she made some things with the kids, and they loved it. So it's nice to bring other people in as part of the community involvement as well. So yeah, our caterpillar was a little bit different. Ours, well, I had, as far as the differentiated instruction, knowing where your kids are at, I had some kids who just wanted to paint, and I had kids who wanted to draw. And so I pulled over some of those who were like higher in the art area, and their fine motor skills, and they made the whole caterpillar, and other kids came and painted it. And it was a community project, it was a group project, and so a cooperative art is what it was. So yeah, I didn't think about that. So okay, we're going to move on to literacy, language and literacy. If we don't have time for sharing today, if anybody did want to share theirs, we'll definitely do that tomorrow. If you guys are okay with it, I think that what we're talking about today is a little more lengthy than what we're going to do tomorrow. So, plus I have a little better idea of time management now after having one day under my belt. So, in case you didn't know, this is my first seminar. So, there's bound to be a learning curve here. Language and literacy. First of all, I know Lynn, you probably could talk about this for sure, but reading, oh my goodness, just read. There's research out there now that's giving so much evidence to the fact that the kids that are being read to all the time their learning is just taking off in comparison to the kids who aren't being read to. And so I probably should get some statistics for you, for your parents, but it's amazing. There's all kinds of studies out there now showing that just reading to your kids is huge for them. Concept of books, that's something that's been in the assessment tools and the assessment guide for you. And that's also in your early learning guidelines. It outlines the importance of the children knowing concepts of books and what that looks like. And that's, holds the book right side up, turns the pages correctly. Depending on the child, start looking at whether or not they're following the words, from left to right, things like that, okay? So concepts of books are important. And so when you're teaching the kids, just kind of discussing that a little bit. So when I read to you, I'm going to be pointing to these, especially if it's like a big song chart or something. I'm going to point to the words. I'm going from left to right. They get that if you say it often enough. And so just kind of doing that with them and showing them how you leapfrog down to the next line and then keep going. And you can even start talking to them about what a period is and what an exclamation point is or what a question mark is. And it's amazing what they pick up. And some won't be ready yet, and that's okay. Letter recognition. We have a letter of the week every week, and we go over that letter so many different ways. We talk about how to make the letter. We show them the letter. We talk about how we make the letter. We talk about lines and curves for when we do it. That's a little bit of handwriting without tears. Katie kind of brought that in. And so by a couple months in, you can ask them, okay, what is this letter made of? Does it have lines? Does it have curves? Is it big curves, small curves? What do we start with? And they've got it down. So really talking about how we're making those letters. And that helps with their recognition too. And then same with letter formation. So phonics, I mentioned it earlier. We always teach our students the phonics for the letter sounds to go along with the letter. And some of the kids are ready to learn it, and some of them just aren't, and that's okay. But we're throwing it out there for those who are ready and need something more. So, and then at least that way too. I guess in preschool, we figure the more we expose them to, the easier it's going to be for them when they move on. So even if they haven't mastered some concepts, by the time they get to your guys' kindergarten classrooms, at least they've been exposed to it, and it's not going to be something foreign to them. So we want to keep exposing them, even if we feel like sometimes they might not be ready for something, as long as they understand that concept of yet. So, and then, the Nebraska Early Learning Guidelines, we already talked about that. I had kind of touched on the 25 high-frequency words earlier. So because the kindergarten teachers in the consortium, and I don't know what it's looking like outside the consortium now, there's a higher expectation for them now of how many high-frequency words their kindergartners have to know. There's a pretty decent-sized list of them. I don't remember, is it 50 now? Or something like that. And so a suggestion was start exposing the preschoolers to the first 25. And my first thought was, okay, they're learning their letters right now. Some of my kids don't know their letters, and some of them aren't going to know other letters even when they go to kindergarten. So that kind of threw me for a loop. But, we were talking about it. And if we do want to do the whole exposure concept, we could even do something, and I could get everybody the 25 high frequency words we're talking about if you'd like. But if we're going to do that, it could be in a fun way, like have a star word of the week or magic word of the week or whatever posted on your bulletin board or right behind you when you're teaching, so that they're just getting exposed to it. When we're reviewing our other words, maybe we review that too. So maybe we just expose them to it if we're being asked to kind of bump things up a little bit, whether they're ready for it or not, or just not ready yet. So there's that. Now, the fun part about language and literacy, Katie talked a little bit about it too when we were talking about the caterpillar. I wanted to share my favorite literacy tool. It's the letterbox. Can you go to the next? Yes, there's Grace.
Grace.
Grace at the letterbox, and Jimena, she's ready. I had a video for you guys. I actually rushed and videotaped the kids doing the letterbox. And it was so cute, but for some reason it's not.
You want me to
playing.
try it?
I don't know. Well, let me do. I'll do.
All right.
Well, actually, you can try. I don't know if it will, but give it a shot.
If not,
That was on letter formation, the kids doing that, it was kind of fun. Is there sound?
Kind of. Wait, that's letter W formation, letterbox video.
Well, actually, the letter box it starts with the letter W formation and leads into the letter box, so
It sounds like it's working, but it's not very loud.
it's not very loud. I wonder,
I have this all the way up, and the laptop's all the way up.
Put your microphone on.
Oh, yeah, here, Mr.
is that gonna cause any issues with that microphone?
I don't know if the cord will reach, though.
I don't think so. Is that on the whole time?
Yep.
Alright, I don't think it's gonna work. Well, I might be able to get it working for tomorrow, so. Okay, so basically, after we talk about, let's keep this up actually, if you don't mind. So first we'll talk about how to make the letter. We do the sign language for the letter too, for the kids who might already know how to make the letter, they know the letter sound. So then we also will do the sign language with the kids, for those higher learners, anybody interested. And after we talk about how to form the letter, because I'll ask the kids, do I need a long diagonal? Do I need a straight line? Is a straight line down? All that. We talk about that piece of it. Then we come over and we sing our letter song because they've been sitting on the rug for a little while like that and they need to get up. So they get up and I go over the song of the week with the letter of the week for them. I got them through Scholastic. If you guys don't have the letter songs, I have them upstairs on my board, but they're not very expensive really. Anyway, so I'll go over the words with them and then I'll turn the music on. They all get up and they sing. And I was reviewing this video last night and listening to the kids, now they've been gone for a little while. They knew the whole song. I don't know if it was Friday, but they only would have done it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they belted it out. And I thought that was awesome. So anyway, so we do a letter song. Then they sit back down because it's going to take a little while to get through the letter box. So that's why we got it when we moved. And so I started singing, I wonder what's in the letterbox. It's like the Blues Clues song. I wonder what's in the letterbox. I wonder what's in the letterbox. It starts with the letter. This was the letter Z. I left it in there. The letter, they all shout out, Z. Sometimes they hide things in here. Okay, this letterbox has been a part of Popper's preschool since it started 13 years ago. This is how our needs a new letterbox. I've been looking. My handles are breaking. It's all this craziness. But anyway, I haven't found exactly what I want yet. So I'll sit down in my chair with the letterbox on my lap. And after I sing that song, what starts with the letter Z, their just hands shoot up. Some of them have no clue what's in the letterbox, but their hands are up anyway. And others definitely know what's in the letterbox. On Monday, it's all a guessing game because they haven't seen what's in the letterbox yet. By Wednesday, they're familiar with it, and they're probably going to know, a lot of them are going to know what's in there. By Friday, most of them know what's in there, and they're just finding the chance to get their turn to say what it is. Some weeks I have enough items in the letterbox for everybody to hold. Some weeks I do not, and then we have that conversation of, hey, we don't have a lot in the letterbox this time, but next time it's the letter whatever, and there's going to be a lot of things. And they actually do really well with it. They're very mature about it. So they will give me a guess. And it will be, is there a zebra in the letterbox? Oh my goodness, I do have a zebra. Here's the zebra. And they get to hold the zebra. Now the things in the box are all things that were either donated or we found at a garage sale, or it was a Happy Meal toy that happens to be that letter, or it's a card that we made because we didn't know if we were going to come up with a zipper, and it got laminated, has the word on the back. You can hand make it, you don't even have to type it, whatever you want to do. But just items that you can get cheaply to go in the box that are going to be engaging to them. That's the key. It has to be something that they're going to want to hold. Okay. So there's not a whole bunch in the Z box, but then you're going to have kids who say the wrong thing. They're just going to guess something, especially in the beginning of the year, because they don't understand the concept yet. And when they do that, I'll just say, oh, okay, so let's see here. Car. Car starts with, does Z say? And they'll go, no. And I'll go, okay, well, let's keep thinking. We're looking for something that starts with the sound, and they'll all go, zzz, okay? If they get it wrong, it's okay, and I tell them that all the time. Please keep guessing. Please keep guessing, because that's just how we learn. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, because I always want them to keep guessing. Now, if they guess something that's not in the letterbox, but it happens to start with Z, and I don't have it, and I'll say, ooh, I don't have that in my letterbox. I'll give you something else instead. And then I might find Zoe in the letterbox from Sesame Street. Okay. So first we do it this way, where they're guessing what's in the letterbox, and they sit there and they hold the item. There is a rule though, let's say they have jingle bells and they're playing with them and nobody can listen or learn, they do have to put them back in the box. So I let them give them a good jingle before they sit down, okay? So there are some rules to the letterbox. I'm explaining that before we get started, just like we do with anything else. Explain what the rules are and then we're good to go. Okay, so so you're gonna have your initial students who know, we're gonna have really good guesses of what's in the letterbox. And then you're gonna have your kids who need hints. Now this is differentiated instruction, right? So the next group is gonna be the kids who need some hints. And so we'll give those kids hints like, these are a type of animal, or no, this is a guy who takes care of animals at a zoo. And then of course someone will know that it's a zookeeper and they get to hold the zookeeper. So that was the second piece of differentiated instruction. Those are the kids who really need a little bit of help, but they're gonna get it. And then you've got the kids who have no idea what's in the letterbox. They're gonna keep shouting out car when you're talking about Z, you know. Doesn't usually happen at the end of the year. And then with that student, you're gonna give them really good hints. And sometimes you might even say something, you get to the point where you say, it starts with Z and it ends with Ipper. Okay. And the other kids don't even have a clue that you just handed it to that kid, but they get it. Okay. So differentiated instruction, and that's our letterbox. Now the really cool part about our letterbox is after all the items are gone and I show them that it's empty, the kids get to do some public speaking. And they get I'll say something, I'll give hints like this because I want to see how their little brains are thinking. I'll say something like, you have an item that starts with the letter Z that, well, okay, we'll go back to that. That takes care of zoo animals. Come on up. And so they go, oh, I'm a zookeeper, and they come up. And then you say, okay, and so you're creating a line. If you have something that starts with Z that is a number, come on up. So the person who has the 0, of course, is going to go, ooh, and they're going to come on up. So keep giving them clues like that. And again, you're going to have to do it in a differentiated kind of way because some of the kids won't even be listening at all. And then they come up and they make a line, and you might want to have small lines so that, you know, do it in like small groups. And they'll come up and they will stand there in front of the group, and we'll instruct them on how, when they're talking to their friends, they need to look in their eyes and they need to talk nice and loud. Everyone else needs to be quiet with their hands full in their lap and listening. And so our friend will come up and they'll say, I have a zebra, and it starts with the letter Z. And then everybody will clap for them when they put it in the box. Differentiated instruction, once again, you might have a child who comes up and goes, I got, and then you just say zebra. And then they go, I got a zebra. And then you'll go, and it starts with, and they might go, Y. And I'm like, oh, you're so close, it starts with Z. And then they'll say it, and everybody will clap for them again. No matter how hard it was for them to get that answer out, their friends clap for them. And so, I don't know, it ends up, it's really a cool thing because eventually you see how at the beginning of the year they're lost with it. They're lost on it. And you're gonna think this is not a good thing, this is not a good project. And then a couple months in, they are so excited and they're doing so awesome with it. And those kids who came up first saying, I got whatever, eventually, you let them do that for a while, and then eventually you say, you know, we could say, I have a zebra. And then they all come up and they start doing that. So it's really, I love the letterbox. I can't say enough about the letterbox. This is something that the original director of our program started. And I just picked up on it, and I never let it go. And I thank her so much for doing it. So that was my most important curriculum thing I think that I wanted to share with you guys on literacy, is our letterbox, because it's a hands-on way for them to learn literacy. And then of course, after that, you know, we might do a worksheet, you know, later in the week where they circle things that start with that letter, or they're just looking for that letter on a worksheet, whatever. We continue throughout the week. We work on this, you know, they've done this part with it Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, and then Wednesday morning we start working on this with them with the letter too. So we can incorporate it all week long. But they love the letterbox. Every year when I ask the kids what was their favorite thing they learned about, every year at least a couple of them say they love doing the letterbox. So you can do it with 3-year-olds too if you want to. Yes?
Do you teach your letters in order or out of order?
I teach my letters in order. you know what, a lot of people teach them in order, but if you have a different type of program where there's a reason that you're teaching them out of order, whether it's because those sounds are easier to learn and you want to start with the easier sounds, you may be doing it that way. Personally, in our program, we start and just go through the letters. So, and it's working for us, but there are different ways to do it. So, all right, well, here's only 10 minutes left. So I don't know, did you have anything, Jen, that you wanted to add to literacy at all? Okay, all right, Jen's good. All right, so then is there anything that anybody did bring that they do want to share about literacy? Because if not, you guys can just do the front part of your survey, or you can take your survey home with you tonight and do it after you go shopping. Yes.
Before when you were talking about approaches to learning and you talked about like in-service,
Yes.
like how do we find out like when and where things like that are?
What I can do, the ones that I really like, I can get you a website. Sandy, we help you remember that?
Yeah.
And we can put it on there for tomorrow's PowerPoint. I'll get you a
Right,
website
for the ESU?
for the ESU.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know what, I've gone to a lot of seminars over the years, actually we probably all have, and sometimes you leave them, and I hope you don't feel that way today, but sometimes you walk away from them and go, I could have taught that, I didn't learn anything, I'm not taking home anything new I can use, and that's a bummer. And then there's those ones that you go to where they give you so much information that it's amazing. The ones that I've taken through the ESU, it's right on 110th and Harrison. I have never walked away feeling like I wasted my time. And those are the ones that I told you about. They're like $30 for 6 hours worth of class. So I'll bring in a link, a website for you guys. So, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, I can get calendar paper. I don't, okay. Melissa's like, yes. What is that?
So I'll get.
Okay. Can we turn this off now? Stop.
Yeah. I think so.
Where's the stop? Do you want to leave our name tags at the table? Sure, and then you can grab